Although weather-related events, such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and flooding, are beyond our control, consumers can take steps to help make the insurance claims process run smoothly. One thing you can do before bad weather hits is to make an inventory of your personal property and keep that inventory someplace other than your home. That list will help if you have to make a claim later. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners has developed an app called My Home Scrapbook that is great for this purpose. You can find a link to it on our website. Here are some helpful tips that can help you with filing a claim. Contact your insurance company or agent immediately to report any damage. As soon as it is safe to do so, prepare a detailed inventory of all damaged or destroyed property for the insurance adjuster and for yourself. Take photographs or a video of the damaged property to help document your claim and assist in the insurance company's investigation. Keep all receipts for emergency repairs and for any temporary living expenses if your home is not habitable. Make only those repairs necessary to prevent any further damage to your home or business. Do not have permanent repairs made without consulting your insurance company. Learn more by visiting our website, insurance.maryland.gov, or by calling us at 1-800-492-6116.
If your car is damaged by a storm, the damage will be covered if you have comprehensive coverage, sometimes called comp or other than collision coverage. Comprehensive coverage usually covers damage from events other than a collision, such as a flood or from fallen trees. Comprehensive coverage is usually subject to a deductible that is shown on your policy's declaration page. If your vehicle has flood damage, it is important to file your claim as soon as you can. It is a good idea to take photographs or video of the damage and to take all of the necessary steps to prevent mold or mildew from developing in your vehicle. For example, you can properly dry out your vehicle to prevent mold and mildew. Your insurer may choose to pay for a cleaning before looking to see if there is any flood damage that needs to be repaired. If the car floated away, contact the police department to see if your car has been recovered. If a tree or limbs have fallen on your car, this damage would also likely be covered under your comprehensive coverage, subject to any applicable deductible. If the tree is on the property of another, such as a neighbor or on public land, the owner of the tree will generally not be responsible for the damage unless the tree was a known hazard prior to the accident and the owner failed to take action. If your car is damaged in a storm, the insurer will look at how much your car is worth versus how much the repairs will cost. Under Maryland law, a vehicle may be determined a total loss when the cost of repairs plus the cost of any anticipated rental reimbursement expense reaches 75% of the pre-loss value of your vehicle. It is important to know that your insurer may consider the cost of actual repairs as well as the potential repair cost of hidden damage and the cost of a rental vehicle in deciding if a vehicle is a total loss. If you are unsure whether or not you have purchased comprehensive coverage, you can look at your policy declarations or ask your insurance producer or insurer for details about what your policy covers. For further information, please visit our website at www.insurance.maryland.gov.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us this afternoon on our virtual disaster center call. The purpose of this call is to address any questions or concerns consumers may have as a result of our recent weather events. You just had an opportunity to watch 3 of our very informative videos relating to damage to homes and automobiles. What we're going to do next is I'm going to briefly really highlight a couple of things that are we covered in those videos. And then the most important portion of this presentation is that we will open up breakout rooms where you will have the opportunity to speak one-on-one with one of our trained staff members, and they can assist you and specifically answer any of your particular questions. Also, there will be an opportunity if you speak Spanish to have an interpreter as a part of that discussion. Gigi, if you wouldn't mind just telling any of our Spanish speaking attendees that, please.
Sure. Buenas tardes a todos al Centro Virtual de la Administración de Seguros de Maryland. Si alguien habla español y necesita un intérprete, por favor indíquelo en el cuadro de chat. Gracias.
Thanks, Gigi. And also for any of you that want, the slides will be available. They'll be on our website, I'd say either late tomorrow afternoon or very early next week. And as we go through, if you have any general questions, these wouldn't be questions that are particular to your property, but if you have any general questions, we will also handle those before we go into the breakout room sessions. So Joyce, why don't we go ahead and get started with the slides? Next slide. All right, so as you saw in a couple of the videos, the important thing to do is as soon as you realize that you've had damage and as soon as it's safe to do so, you should report that damage to your insurance producer. A lot of people know that as your insurance agent or broker, or to your insurance company. The reason for that is you need to make that claim in real time so that there's not a dispute down the road as to whether or not the particular weather event caused your damage. And these days where we're having so many different weather events back to back, it's important that you promptly report that claim. And under all of these tips, you're going to see a link to information on our website, which will give you more information about what to expect in this particular case when reporting a claim. The next thing that we really encourage all consumers to do is keep detailed records of everyone that you speak to about your claim. When you talk to people from the insurance company, when you talk to the insurance adjuster or any of the contractors, not only write down their name and contact information, but a brief description of the conversation. That way you're not trying to recall what you said to someone or what someone said to you. You have a clear record of that. And then the other thing is, once you are basically submitting and contacting the insurance company, they're going to ask you some very specific questions. What was damaged? When did the damage occurred? Have you done anything to the property? So just be ready to answer those questions. And once again, if you go to our website, to that link that you see there, it'll give you a general idea of what types of questions the insurance agent or insurance company will be asking you. Next slide. Now, when you are reporting your claim, couple of things. Make sure that you give the insurance agent, company, or adjuster current phone numbers that you can be reached at. So if there's a number on file that's maybe 2 or 3 years old and you've gotten a new cell phone, make sure they have that number. If basically you aren't able to live in your home, and don't give them the landline for your home. Instead, give them the phone number where they can actually reach you. And that might mean giving them a relative's phone number instead of yours, but it's really important that they be able to reach you. Make sure if there's damage to your home that the actual street address is visible. So when they come to take a look at the damage, they actually are there when they are viewing. They make sure that they're coming to the right location. The other thing that's important is when the insurance company comes to visit your home, it is a really good idea if you've hired a contractor, both you and your contractor are there so that you can point out the damage to the insurance adjuster. Sometimes the insurance company's adjusters miss things. So by you being there, you can make sure that they are able to see all of the damage. Next slide, please. When possible, try to get multiple contractors to bid on repairs. That way you can make sure that you are getting a good bid. And then one of the things that we also tell people all the time, when you're dealing with a contractor, make sure that they are licensed by the Maryland Home Improvement Commission. And you'll find, we'll have on one of the slides at the very end how to get in touch with them. You always want to deal with someone that's licensed here in the state of Maryland. And make sure that you understand that you are responsible for your deductible. We have seen incidents here in the state where some contractors or roofers offer to waive a deductible or make promises about giving you a rebate. That is illegal here in the state of Maryland. So one of the things, once again, we really want to stress is you only work with reputable contractors. Next slide. If you have damage to your home and you're not able to live in your home, you may be entitled to something called additional living expenses. Your particular policy will give you the guidelines about what additional living expenses cover and what's included. Go to the link here on this page, and that'll give you more information. But remember, it's called additional living expenses. So these are expenses that are above and beyond what you would normally have to pay. Next slide. So one of the things that I do want to take a few minutes, since several of the last few weather events involved water damage, I want to take a few minutes and explain to people the different types of water damage and what generally is covered under your homeowner's insurance and what is not. So we frequently hear the term flooding. Well, I'm going to start with the premise that flooding is almost always not covered under your homeowner's insurance policy. If you have a general condition of flooding in the area, then as a general rule, that is not going to be covered by a homeowner's insurance policy. You will have to purchase a separate flood insurance policy to have that covered. Now, the flood insurance policy is generally sold by the National Flood Insurance Program. Some private insurance companies will offer that National Flood Insurance Program policy. Also, there are some private insurance companies that will offer a flood insurance policy. But the bottom line is if water seeps into your home, that is considered flooding, and not covered by your homeowner's insurance. That being said, almost every person in the state of Maryland can purchase flood insurance. So if you ask your insurance agent if you can purchase a flood insurance policy and they tell you no, more likely than not, they are incorrect. What people will often come back and tell me is that their insurance agent told them that because they weren't in a flood zone, they could not purchase flood insurance. That's absolutely wrong. If you live in a high risk area and your mortgage company requires that you purchase flood insurance, then you will have to pay more because your risk is higher. However, if you live right outside of the flood zone, you still can purchase flood insurance and the rates will be less. This is what I try to tell people, that the water doesn't know the lines between high risk and low risk. You as a property owner have to do a general assessment of your particular property to determine the last time we had a heavy rain. Did your property flood? Did your neighbor's property flood? Is the flow of water toward your property? If those things are the case, then you should strongly consider purchasing flood insurance. And if you don't know where to start, go to the website floodsmart.gov, floodsmart.gov, and that'll go into more detail about flood insurance policies. Next slide, please. So this once again goes over what is considered flooding and what will not be covered under your homeowner's policy. Next slide. Once again, this just gives you, take a minute. We're going to pause here for a minute for you to take a look at this slide and make sure you understand what is not covered under your homeowner's insurance policy. Next slide. Okay, but then there are types of water damage that may be covered by your homeowner's insurance. And the first type I like to start with is not everybody, but many people have sump pumps, and they're basically intended to keep water either from overflowing or pumping it out of the home. But sometimes the sump pump fails, either because of a power outage or it just can't keep up with all of the rain. And so under your homeowner's policy, generally speaking, you may be able to purchase additional coverage for this type of damage. So you're going to have to, all homeowners policies are different. So you're going to have to talk to your insurance agent and talk to them about, well, what type of policy or add-on or additional coverage do you have for my sump pump or for water sewer backup? Ask them what's covered, what kinds of situations does it cover, And then here's the big thing. How much coverage do you offer? Now, all companies are required to offer your policy limits, but many companies offer far less than that. So it's important that you understand what types of coverage they offer and select the best one for you. Because remember, this is an additional coverage, so you're going to have to pay an additional price to get this additional coverage. So just make sure that you ask about water, sewer, backup coverage. And if you're not sure, you say, well, maybe I have that. I kind of think I have that. Remember in one of the videos, they talked about your declaration page. If you have this coverage, it should be listed on your declaration page. If you can't find it, pick up the phone, call your agent and ask. Next slide, please. So this next page are a lot of the consumer advisories and tips that you'll find on our website. We've got lots of things, not just the video that you saw, but lots of short advisories, some FAQs, things that will help you as a consumer. Next slide. And then this is just some additional resources and contact information. And then our last slide. So a lot of our material is also available in Spanish. So please feel free, if you'd like that, click on this link and it'll take you directly to that information as well. So this ends the formal portion of the presentation. Does anyone have any general questions that they would like to ask at this point?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Are there any grant programs to assist property owners with damage occurred due to the most recent storms?
So generally speaking, in order for there to be any federal, state, or local grants, there would have had to have been, based on damage assessments, a certain amount of damage that occurred. In this particular case, at this point in time, there has not been. That doesn't mean that at some point in the future, there won't be, but my guess is that probably not. What I can say is frequently the Department of Housing and Community Development does have some types of general programs, and this is not just for disaster-oriented things, but they have general programs that may help homeowners to make repairs. Generally, they're for seniors and things along those lines, but I would go to their website and see if they have any particular funds that may be available for repairs.
And what was that website again, please?
Joyce, if you can, or Cheryl, you may know DHCD's website. If one of you can throw it in the chat.
Joyce, if you don't have it, I can put it in there.
Cheryl, why don't you go ahead and put it in? Oh, Joyce just put it in.
Okay, got it. Okay. And then what is the typical investigative process to determine if any grant programs may become available in the future? Is that a typical 30, 60, 90-day process?
It truly does depend. So what ends up happening is after an event, and it's each locality, because as a general matter, disasters are local in nature. So each locality will go to any areas that were damaged and examine the property and do what's called a damage assessment. So what I would do is I would reach out to my particular county, or if you happen to live in the city, reach out to the city and find out what their process is for damage assessments. Sometimes all you need to do is go to their emergency manager's website and they will put it right there on the front page. You fill out a form that tells them that you had damage and you put all your information in. They will come out, take a look at that particular damage and do an assessment. And they have to do an assessment of all of the damage, put together paperwork, and that has to be reviewed and then submitted. And that process sometimes takes a long time. Sometimes when it's initially denied, they will go through an appeals process, and that takes even longer. It is not a short time. And that's one of the reasons that we really emphasize getting insurance. Because even if, and I'll go back a long way, 20 some years ago when we had Isabel, and that was a major event. We went through all of the processes and we received federal funding, state funding, and local funding. Even, first of all, that took a long time for that money to come. And even then, for most people, that was not sufficient money to pay for all of their damage. Generally speaking, the money that you're going to get from the feds, the state, or the locals is not going to put you in the same position you were in prior to the weather event.
Okay. And then one last question. That process, the process you just described, sounded like was associated with the property specific evaluation process. Do they assess general areas that they may consider I don't know, disaster zone or emergency zone based off of the overall damage of the area versus a specific property?
So a damage assessment is going to be on all properties that they are made aware of that sustain damage. So if, let's say you have damage in the Annapolis area and they're made aware of 10 properties that received damage, they are going to go out and review all 10 properties. The submission will be based on the damage to all 10 properties. So if they receive information on 10 properties, 100 properties, 1,000 properties, the damage assessment is going to be done to all properties that they are made aware of.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none. If you would like to go to a breakout room, could you just please indicate that in the chat, and Joyce will send you to a breakout room.